Okay, have you ever needed to reboot, restart your journaling routine and then found yourself watching the Lord of the Rings movies, reading the books, reading books about the books? In this video, I'm gonna talk about how these 7 things about sort of like Hobbit inspired journaling just help me enjoy my journaling routine a lot more, and coming back to my journals, not just in the morning, but in the evening, filling things in throughout the day, just really getting excited about, using pen and paper, recording little memories, making life just that much richer. This first one I think is actually the most important. I'm just gonna lead with it. I know you're not supposed to do that with YouTube retention, whatever. Both the stories of Bilbo and Frodo are all taking place in one book, right? The Red Book. And it reminded me a lot of how it was recorded in Da Vinci's biography by Walter Isaacson, that Da Vinci's father was writing in books, journals that his father had started. So like Da Vinci's grandfather. This idea of this like continuing the book no matter where it's at sort of broke the idea for me of like keeping a perfect journal, especially with some of these bigger ones like the Leuchtturms that have almost 200 pages. This one over here especially, I've put this down and picked this up multiple times in the last 2 years now. And early on, I really had that struggle. I really had that struggle of like, oh, I want the perfect notebook. I don't know what I'm doing in it. If I mess up the first few pages, then it feels like, or even worse, you get like stuck feeling like you can't even write in the first few pages because you're like, oh, this journal's too nice, or it's too perfect, or I don't want to like waste this notebook. And look, I don't have the calligraphy expertise of a J.R.R. Tolkien, but I think that needs to be the treasure of journaling. Just continuing to go and filling each page, not worrying about like, did I mess up? Did I make a mistake? I had one of these where it's like I blew the header on this one. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Let that little Hobbit Red Book inspire you to pick up the journal you already have and keep going. This leads me to the second point, which is delighting in domesticity, delighting in just the simple things. And there's 2 parts to this for me. I think the first part is just like gardening and being aware of like what food is in season, especially nowadays with like grocery stores and just big box retailers like doing groceries and food. As we meet our neighbors, especially with our kids, one of our neighbors down the road from us, she has this raspberry bush that just seems to be the most plentiful and abundant thing. And my son loves it, and it's great. My daughter's, she's not quite there where she can pick the raspberries, but little things like that, and being mindful of like, how can we maybe exchange something with this person for their crops, their things. Also just going to the farmer's market, going to our local family grocer, knowing what's in season, knowing what to look for, and then asking people, especially at the farmer's market, how would I use this thing? There's a microgreens vendor there at our farmer's market. There are plenty of people doing produce. One of the things that's really popular here in Idaho is huckleberries and huckleberry jam, and doing French toast with huckleberry jam. And also we have a lot of maple trees and having fresh maple syrup, and just building out a little menu for the season and having like the fresh ingredients. Maybe you want to write down who it is that has what, or like what you can offer, what you're currently growing in your garden. Right now we have a couple walnut trees and some cherry trees, and so putting those walnuts into like a salad, doing like cherry empanadas, things like that. This is one of the things that gets a workout in my notebook. I love asking people like, what's your favorite summer dish? Or if they have a garden, asking them what they're growing in the garden, things like that. And then just coming back to it repeatedly, instead of asking like, oh, what do we want for dinner or for lunch or a snack, being able to come to this sort of summer menu or seasonal menu, whatever season you're in, and just having a delightful menu to always return to and grow and develop as the season moves on. All right, this third point I'm going to get to, I think you should do this. I've really had a blast doing this, which is second breakfast journaling, I think. Or just trying to keep a log of your meals, where you're going, who you're meeting with. Yesterday I had a wild day where I ended up at like 4 different coffee shops throughout the day, just meeting with people, trying to get work done. It was cool in the morning and then very warm in the afternoon, like 85 degrees Fahrenheit, about 30 something degrees Celsius. So it's just kind of like a mashup of a day. But if you don't know to write, I think that's one of the best first things to write about, which is like, what meals did you have? Who did you have them with? So this is kind of building off of that continued delight in domesticity. And then it's really nice to go back and look at like, who did I enjoy time with this past week, and reflect on those things. And then I've even been just asking people like, hey, do you want to come with me to second breakfast? You'd be surprised how many people want to join you for second breakfast. It is, it's great. You should do it. Now, this little bit was something that I really got at. I've been listening also to the Lord of the Rings audiobooks with Andy Serkis that just came out. They may be an Audible exclusive, I don't know, but they're really well done. And I think one of the things that I really sat with and sat in was like how much like hobbits care about like the stories of their lineage and like the family tree and like just these legends, and like not just looking at attributes of individuals, but like remembering stories and realizing, especially since my mother passed away a little over a year ago now, capturing some more of those stories, asking my dad, my aunts and uncles, even my cousins, about little stories about my mom. There's one particular one that I need to ask a couple family members about because it shouldn't be this funny, but there are a lot of like funny little stories around my mom the first time she went to Teotihuacan, which is like, it's an archaeological site. It shouldn't be funny, but there's already like a few brooding seeds of like funny stories there. Another one for me was my dad took a motorcycle trip up the coast from Baja California to British Columbia on his motorcycle. And then he did that right before he married my mother. And I repeated that trip, not on a motorcycle, but with my Ford, I guess now almost 12 years ago, before I got married, somewhere around there. Yeah. And so writing down those stories, some little details, I've cross-referenced bits of that adventure for myself with some of the spots that my dad stopped off at. It's little things like that. Like I would love to write that up and tell that story and have that for my kids. And maybe one day when my son is getting married or whatever, he might want to do that same trip. And this is, again, like another two-parter with your notebook, right? Like if you are just sitting somewhere and you want to start like writing and having like a really rich moment, right? Like start writing down some of these stories. But also you can take these with you, and if you go meet with family, friends, whatever, ask them some of their fun lineage and legends of their family. I think this has already in the last few weeks been a fun experiment, and I'm excited to see how far I can take it. Okay, we need to talk about Mathoms. These little like affectionate gifts that are not the best way I could describe a Mathom is like something of ordinary beauty yet totally anti-productivity, right? So think like my children already do this. They might bring me, like my son especially, might bring me like a bundle of sticks or a bunch of flowers. Sometimes there's little hand-drawn sketches. That's one of the things I love about field notes is I will give my son a field notes and he'll usually blow through it in like a month or so. Just doing like little fun sketches, and it's been really fun to watch him, from 2 years old, I started doing this. Now at 4, he would just kind of scribble just on the page, and now he's starting to form his letters and spell his name and do numbers and, draw little shapes and pictures. For me, I've always loved giving field notes to friends. I would like to be able to hand make something and have like little gifts to give friends. One of my other friends, Nick, who makes rosaries, he does such a good job with those rosaries. I don't know what that's going to be for me. I happen to have a ton of field notes and pocket notebooks from Leuchtturm, Paper Republic, all the different notebooks that I've worked with in the last several years on this channel, and I've more than I could probably ever use in a lifetime. Even though I'm a heavy notebook user. So for me, my little Mathom that I love to give to people are field notes, and starting with my own family. But I would encourage you to think about that. What is something that you can give someone that is an affectionate little gift? I guess do something with ordinary beauty that's anti-productivity, that is an affectionate gift that you can give family, friends, even strangers. I have a very good friend, Blake, if you're watching this, I love you, man. He has a 3D printer, or got a 3D printer last year, and printed like little soap bubble pipes for our kids to like use. It was very charming, very Hobbit-like. It was great, and I wish I had it here. I don't know where that thing is right now. And I think something that I need to do in this notebook is catalog the Mathoms, the little things that I've collected now over just this particular summer. Okay, coming up on the end, we got 2 more. I decided to do a page for the feast. So this is for the upcoming feasts and like holy days of obligation, memorials, because in the Hobbit world, they are so connected with like not just local birthdays and giving gifts and And this has always been, I guess, hard for me because I sort of live between the Hispanic Mexican world and the United States world, and sometimes there's different saints for, different communities. But now I'm just trying to plan out the feast days. Like coming in August is the Feast of the Transfiguration. What a great reminder that he is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. I think the Transfiguration for me was actually one of the most beautiful moments, seeing that, like, yes, even Jesus is there speaking with people who have since deceased or parted, but are still very much alive, right? Like Peter and John and James can still see them. And so that's what we get from all the saints. We get this beauty of being in the presence of our Lord, and we get different perspectives. We get different depths. We get more. We get more Jesus with all the saints. I recently was reading St. Stephen of Hungary's feast day is on the 16th of August. Obviously, sharing a namesake intrigued me. And then I didn't realize that Pope Leo XIII actually wrote an encyclical, or maybe like just a papal letter to the people of Hungary for the Feast of St. Stephen. Just in the last few years, getting to know more friends in our community and their patron saints, it's cool to look at the calendar and go, like, St. Clare of Assisi's feast day on the 11th, it reminds me of someone that I've been meaning to reach out to. St. Monica is, her feast day is directly connected to one of our good friends in our parish, whose patron is also St. Monica. And I've been reading a biography of St. Dominic that I guess I have right here. I'm really excited to finish this, and especially finishing this by his feast day would be a good move. There's also like a whole subculture on the internet of like people who make dishes and meals specifically for different feast days and like inspired for different feast days based on where people are from, like Clare of Assisi being from northern Italy, or St. Lawrence of Rome being from this, like, I guess, late empire of Rome. St. Maximilian Kolbe, you got to go get yourself some Japanese food probably to celebrate him. And that just wild thing that he did, setting up a monastery in Nagasaki before the bomb fell. St. Rosalima is really important to our family, especially. Yeah, there's so many good things here. But writing down the feasts and starting to plan, and like using this as a guide to plan out the season, plan out the next month ahead, and just inject a little bit of that like festivity and delight and celebration, inviting friends into that, especially friends who have these different patron saints. I was actually surprised, especially for August. I was like, oh, this is going to be a slow month for I guess feast days and liturgical calendar days of the year. And I ended up kind of walking away when I built this list going like, half of the saints on here are patrons of people that we know and love and would love to have a meal with, and it's a great time to have and share a meal with. Build yourself a liturgical calendar. Give yourself some feast days, even in the days where it feels like, this is ordinary. Yeah, make some feast days. Invite family, get together, and celebrate. Okay, the last thing on this list is record the journey. This does not have to be there and back again. It does not have to be you simply walking into Mordor. It could just be a log of walks, or in this particular case, we just got e-bikes. We got a little trailer for the kids, and we've ridden, like, I think my bike's odometer is almost at 200 miles. So 200 miles of biking in just the last month, a lot of that with the kids' trailer in tow. And so I just started cataloging last month and then this month all the little rides that we've been doing, and just noting, a destination, or like going to go get donuts or ice cream, or riding to mass. One of the other couples in our parish said, like, that's the dream. Tolkien was very famous for riding his bike to mass. He had a car for a little bit, got rid of it, said he wanted nothing to do with it, and would just ride his bike to mass. So maybe it's a bike ride, maybe it's just a drive in the car, maybe it's a walk. But what getting in the habit of logging, something so simple as just riding the bike, whether it's by myself or with the family, is it keeps the pen moving. It keeps the story going. And especially, like, I had a couple days gap over here when we were sick. I realized, like, I got kind of like unsettled. I didn't have anything to write about. I wasn't writing. I was just kind of like on the couch. My daughter was sick. My kids were sick. And, I wrote about that separately in the journal, I guess. But writing about the bike rides has sort of fueled enjoying the bike rides more, and getting out more, and going on these different trails and going to these different destinations, and making it an outing with the family where now we just spend a lot more time together outside in this new context. And my son has been finding a lot of fun ways to describe things. He's 4 years old. It's kind of fun to see, like, we biked to the Independence Day parade that was in our town, and it was great because we didn't have to deal with parking. But yeah, my son is wondering now why we don't do fireworks every single day, or at least every single week, and I don't blame him. So it's the little things. It's just about enjoying the journey. It's about having those little moments, writing them down, even if they don't feel necessarily like worth writing down, I guess. Just write it down. Keep the story going, keep it flowing, and that's what's going to help you capture most beautifully in the most detail the things you do want to capture, and then inspire you to keep going back and doing that thing. Like if I miss a day biking, I'm bummed. So yeah, I think that's just one of the most Hobbit-y things you can do. It's just like record a walk, whether that's a walk to a friend's house, a bike ride to a garden. Slow down and enjoy living. So if you happen to have another Hobbit-inspired journaling routine, something else that feels very Hobbit-like to get you writing, let us all know down in the comments below. With that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed to this channel. If you haven't yet, please do so. It does really help me out. And be kind, both in life and in the comments below. Like this video to send good vibes across the internet, and we will do it again soon. Later.